Video games. What comes to your mind when you think about that? Is it something competitive, like first-person shooters or MOBAs? Or something casual, like puzzle or simulation games? Long gone are the days when games were a niche activity played by a bunch of nerds. Now, it's one of the most prospering industry in the world, and everyone is trying to outdo themselves to get the attention of this community. There are games who try to do something out of the box to give the fans an experience that they have never had before. But those hardly do well in the financial department. Granted that the developers behind those games aren't there for the money. Nonetheless, they deserve more appreciation for the creativity that they bring into their craft. We all know what type of games tend to do better in the market. Free-to-play games with shiny skins to attract the RGB-infested gamers, which occasionally contains some vital game items hidden behind a paywall. Everyone seems to hate that, but every goddamn year, they come out with a new hot pile of garbage, and there are people who somehow fall for all the false hopes given by those game publishers. Rather than complaining, like I am doing, stop supporting them by buying their unfinished, uninspired, unfulfilling games. Speaking of false hopes, and getting hyped up about something that doesn't have that much to show for itself, the E3 2021 took place recently. Well, E3 can perfectly summarize what I don't like about the current gaming climate, which is video game companies trying their best to take the worst things from Hollywood and implement that into video games, and for some reason they think that it will make it better. But all it does is make their games feel more like movies than a video game, with them using cinematic trailers to reveal it. And that somehow fools millions of people every year into believing that the game somewhat looks like the trailer. Listen, all I'm trying to say is at least let them provide with something of actual value before getting all excited. Don't pre-purchase a video game on the basis of that. I just don't get all the hype that people create after watching anything on E3. Let the game come out, and then we all can see for ourselves if it is good or not. I don't have a personal vendetta against the games that you like. I want them to be good, but most of the time they aren't, or at least live up to the expectations which was created by putting those games in a high pedestal. So, why am I talking about E3 in a video that doesn't concern anything about that? Because the game that I wanted to talk about is opposite to all the things that I don't like about E3. Helltaker. It is an indie puzzle adventure game about a man who goes by the name of Helltaker. And after having a dream about demon girls, he decides to go on a journey down into hell, as you do, to make his dream come true. And that is the premise of this game. But as you already know, I don't care that much about the plot in video games. So let's move on to the better part about this game, the gameplay. It starts out as you meet Beelzebub, the Great Fly, who narrates the dream that Helltaker had, and you have to help him get all the demon girls a man can dream of by clearing levels in a limited number of moves, or else you will be disintegrated and go to hell, I guess. Of course, the limited moves isn't the only obstacle stopping you from reaching to the demon girls. There are skeletons, and you have to bonk them until they get slammed into a wall. I mean, they were just vibing to the music until you came along with your thirst for some demon girls. And there are sharp, pointy traps, and going through those deducts one move from you. It can be pretty fun to use them, as you can throw one of those poor skeletons into that. The main objective of each and every level is to reach to the demon girl before you run out of your limited amount of moves. And if you manage to do that, they will ask you a question and you have to answer them depending on their personality. If, by chance, you get it correct, well, you've got a demon girl to yourself. If not, then they will, kill you, I guess. I mean, it's not like anyone would deliberately do that, right? Who wants to get killed by a demon girl in hell out of all the places? Not me, of course. Some of you might say that this looks pretty basic and easy. Well, to that I'll say, fuck you. Because the levels gradually get harder and harder, just like mine. It's either that this game is pretty tough, which I personally don't mind, or I'm just plain old, simple, dumb boy. It might be the latter one. I haven't finished the game yet because I'm stuck in level 6. Yes, I know, I can just look at some playthrough to get past that level, like a normal functioning human being. But I like the frustration and despair that comes from being stuck in a level after trying for days. Just like the protagonist who goes after demon girls even though he knows they will hurt him. Well, that about sums up the whole game. Not only the plotline is simple, but the gameplay too. You control a buff, muscular guy. Not my words, I'm directly quoting what is written in the wiki. And you have to use that big boy, huge muscles to push slabs of rock that stands between you and the demon girls. The big guy apparently loves to eat chocolate pancakes and play turn-based strategy games. Before I get into other aspects of this game, let's talk about the developer. The entire game was designed, developed and published by a single person who goes by the name of Van Ripper, and his real name is let's stick with Van Ripper. Well, Lucas made a YouTube channel way back in 2008 where he posted a couple of pretty good animation videos, a year apart from each other. 100% dead Animator is a no joke. After that, he uploaded a small series that consisted of 3 episodes, Daystone, which followed the story of Kosha, a cat girl with a sword. She is one of the red hunters who is hunting for gems, known as the Daystones, and to get them, she has to go through numerous enemies, from a robot girl to Medusa. The whole series plays out as a video game, as the character goes through different levels, and after gaining the Daystones, a card pops up in a typical video game style showing the results. Video games were always a major inspiration for his animated videos, from Elder Scrolls Skyrim being the one for his oldest video, to this mini-series which was inspired by Dark Souls. By that time, he has been uploading animated videos for over 4 years, and you can clearly see the improvement in his animations, as Daystone's art style resemble a lot to the one that we are used to see in the game Helltaker. And in 11th of May 2020, after working for a year, he released Helltaker, which recently got a new bonus chapter added onto the core game in its 1-year anniversary update. You might say that there are so many indie games that have been developed by a single person, which look and play out more in depth than this one. Of course, there are games like that. I completely agree with you. Helltaker is in no way a complex game, but what makes this stand out from the numerous other solo developed games is that, first of all, it's free, which is a huge factor for it being so popular than the previously mentioned games. Most of the earliest video games made by any indie developer that are available in Steam are paid titles, which might be the reason for lower numbers of downloads. But the people who buy at that moment can be considered pretty loyal, who the developer can rely on for his future endeavors. Helltaker, on the other hand, had the support of a pretty decent fanbase accumulated from his YouTube channel. But still, the numbers that it pulled off for being the first game by a pretty unknown developer is quite of an achievement. And it did that without the push of any major streamer or YouTuber. A game that got a huge influx of players from those sources was Doki Doki Literature Club. Almost every gaming channel was playing that when the game was at its peak popularity. There were so many fan theories and Easter eggs videos that were getting handsome number of views. That game had so much to offer, from hidden endings to alteration of game files that could lead to some mind-blowing outcomes. Playing DDLC was quite of an experience, but that game gained majority of its fanbase from pre-established online personalities and memes, of course, while Helltaker got the attention of people from a different source. The game's soundtrack, which was composed entirely by Midseas, and among all the songs, the main theme, Vitality, got most of the attention, which has almost 10 million views on YouTube, and it spawned numerous memes and crossover memes to different games. The popularity of the soundtracks earned Helltaker a spot in the nomination of Best Soundtrack in Steam Awards. Soundtracks wasn't the only element that made this game popular. The simple yet on point cute art style of the game attracted lots of people, and as Lucas was an animator before this, he encouraged people to make artworks of his game, which led to an ever-growing community of talented people making fan arts. Well, there is another side of this community which had a major impact to its popularity, but I don't think I can talk or show anything about that in this platform without facing any repercussions. With all of that out of the way, we can move on to the biggest question. What makes Helltaker a good game? There are certain type of video games that are easy to learn but hard to master. This is not one of those. There isn't anything to master here. But what it has is a challenging game hiding behind a mask that makes it look like an easy game. I mean, that's what I thought when I first installed it. The levels at the beginning are not that tough, which lures you in, and then eventually it ramps up the difficulty meter at a time when you're too much invested in the game to just leave it. And that's what I appreciate about this game. It's not another one of those easy free indie title. It just looks like one, but plays out in an entirely different way, which I am a huge fan of. The plotline in no way is its strongest point, but it serves as a good base for the beloved characters that the fanbase absolutely adore, as eventually you will forget all the levels of this game. But the characters and the lore behind them, albeit being short, are pretty memorable. I saved my favorite part about this game for the end, the incredibly amazing soundtracks. It is one of those games where you can just vibe to the music playing in the menu for hours. Which works perfectly with the level design too, as you're bound to fail for multiple times in a single level and get stuck in there for a reasonable amount of time. But rather than raging and pulling your hair out, you can just vibe to the music. There are so many great things in this small-sized game which made it popular, from its pleasing art style to catchy soundtracks or the fact that it's free. But in the end of the day, it should be a reminder to every game developer that you don't need big budget or huge cinematic settings to make a game succeed, as most of them are forgetting that no matter how they portray it, in its core, it's just a video game, and it should play out as a video game. And they can learn some lessons from Helltaker, which was developed by a single person, and it resonated with millions of people, an animator who made a simple yet brilliant game. Hey, wait a minute, that's the title of this video.